Most people think attraction is obvious. They imagine confidence, flirting compliments, and direct attention. But real attraction is usually much quieter than that. Because when someone genuinely likes you, their psychology changes before their words. Do especially men who are emotionally cautious, self-conscious, or afraid of rejection. And strangely, the stronger the feelings become, the more confusing their behavior sometimes appears, because attraction often creates internal conflict. Part of them wants closeness. Another part wants emotional protection. And this is where reverse psychology begins. Sometimes people hide feelings by acting differently than expected. Not because they do not care, but because caring too much makes them vulnerable. And once you understand this psychological contradiction, human behavior starts making much more sense. Here are 8 psychological signs. A male secretly has a crush on you, even if he never says it directly. Sign 1. He tries to look emotionally unaffected. One of the biggest reverse psychology signs of attraction is emotional restraint. Many men become calmer, quieter, or emotionally controlled around someone they deeply like, because psychologically they are trying to avoid exposing emotional vulnerability. Instead of obvious excitement, you may notice controlled behavior, measured responses, or pretending not to care too much. But internally, their attention is highly focused on you. This is why some men suddenly become awkward, serious, or overly composed around someone they secretly like. Their nervous system is trying to manage emotional exposure. The more emotionally important you become, the more carefully they regulate themselves, because attraction creates self-awareness, and self-awareness creates behavioral control. Sign 2. He notices small details nobody else remembers. Psychology shows attention follows emotional investment. People naturally remember what emotionally matters to them if he remembers tiny things. You mentioned casually days or weeks ago your favorite drink, a random story, something that upset you, or even small changes in your mood. His brain is emotionally prioritizing information connected to you, and most of the time this happens unconsciously, because attraction increases cognitive focus. Emotionally significant people receive more mental attention, which is why emotionally interested individuals often remember details others completely forget. Sign 3. He sometimes pulls away unexpectedly. This confuses many people because attraction does not always create closeness immediately. Sometimes it creates distance, especially in emotionally guarded men. When emotional attachment begins feeling too real, they temporarily pull back psychologically. They become quieter, slower to respond, or emotionally harder to read. Not because attraction disappeared, but because emotional intensity triggered fear, uncertainty, or overthinking. This is one of the strongest reverse psychology behaviors. The person's either wants connection, but also fears emotional dependence, rejection, or losing control emotionally. So the brain creates temporary distance for emotional safety. Sign 4. His body language changes around you. The body often reveals emotions faster than words do. Psychologists call these unconscious behavioral leaks. For example, he may suddenly sit straighter, fix his clothes, change his voice tone, maintain stronger eye contact, or mirror your movements unconsciously, because attraction activates heightened self-awareness. His nervous system becomes more alert around you, and the brain automatically tries to create positive social presentation. Even subtle behaviors matter. Slower, blinking nervous smiles, looking away, then looking back again. These are often signs of emotional attention because psychologically the brain behaves differently around emotionally important people. Sign 5. He tries to understand you deeply. A man who secretly likes you often becomes psychologically curious about you, not just physically attracted. He asks unusual questions, remembers emotional patterns, notices your moods, and tries understanding how you think. Because real attraction is not only visual, it is cognitive and emotional investment he wants. Emotional access. This is why secretly interested men often observe quietly. Before expressing openly, they study personality, emotional reactions, values, and behavior, because emotionally, they are trying to determine whether deeper connection feels safe, possible, or meaningful. Sign 6. He acts different around other people compared to you. One of the clearest signs of hidden attraction is behavioral inconsistency. Watch how he behaves socially with others, then compare it to how he behaves with you. Many men become calmer, softer, more attentive, or slightly nervous around someone they genuinely like. You may notice he jokes differently, listens more carefully, becomes less emotionally relaxed, or subconsciously seeks your attention. In group settings, because attraction changes. Social behavior automatically, the brain assigns higher emotional importance to certain individuals, and behavior adjusts accordingly. Sign 7. He finds reasons to stay connected. People psychologically move toward emotional attachment. Even subtly, he may send random messages, share unnecessary updates, react to small stories, or create excuses for interaction that technically were not needed, because emotionally invested people seek continued psychological presence. They want to remain mentally relevant in your world, even when interaction itself seems small. This is why secretly interested people often create low-risk communication memes, small questions checking in randomly. The goal is emotional connection without direct vulnerability. Sign 8. He becomes protective. Without realizing it, one of the deepest psychological signs of hidden attraction is emotional protectiveness. Not controlling behavior, but emotional concern. He notices when you are uncomfortable checks. If you arrived safely, pays attention when your mood changes, or subtly becomes more alert around situations involving you, because emotionally attached individuals naturally become more psychologically invested in another person's well-being, and often this protectiveness appears before conscious confession even happens, because attachment changes priorities. Automatically, your emotional state begins affecting his internal emotional state, and psychologically, that is one of the strongest indicators of genuine attraction. The interesting thing about hidden attraction is that people rarely hide emotions perfectly. The mind may try controlling behavior, but emotional investment always leaks through patterns, through attention, through curiosity, through nervous system reactions, through emotional inconsistency, and through the strange psychological tension between wanting connection and fearing vulnerability at the same time. Because reverse psychology teaches something important about human emotion. Sometimes people hide feelings not because emotions are weak, but because the emotions feel too important to risk openly. And often, the people who appear emotionally calm are the ones feeling the most internally, because real attraction is rarely loud. Sometimes it exists quietly inside attention, inside memory, inside nervousness, inside emotional restraint, and inside all the small behaviors people think nobody notices.